Welcome to the Hot Girl School, the podcast where we redefine confidence and go way beyond the reflection you see in the mirror.
We're your hosts, Lauren and Danielle, here to empower you to embrace your inner radiance because confidence is so much more than looks.
Whether you're strutting into an event or conquering the boardroom, join us as we explore topics like self-love, inner strength, and owning your unique journey to confidence.
So grab your favorite drinky and turn up that volume because you're about to unleash your true potential.
School is now in session, and on today's episode of the Hot Girl School, we are going to talk about the magic of being a beginner. Let's dive in. Okay, here we are. Our first episode, or...
Welcome to our fourth episode. We have recorded this 4 times. No joke. We did not like the first ones. And what we're talking about today is like being a beginner at something. And I will have to say, this is something we haven't talked about yet. I was a little nervous to have our first conversation about how our first podcast went because I didn't know how I was going to give you the information that I thought, and I didn't know how you were going to receive the information I was giving and vice versa. We haven't seen each other in that position yet.
Yeah, that was definitely new for us. Like we both didn't love so let's back up a little bit and give our listeners some context, right? So Lauren and I have both seen some success in our life. We have worked really hard at the accomplishments that we've made. And in doing so, we've developed kind of this like professional hat and this perfectionism. So what we learned is we both went to our default setting, which was on. We're professional, but this is not that. Like this is a fun environment. And we had to have a tough conversation and tell each other like, hey, I really kind of fucking hated those recordings.
They were awful.
They
actually weren't awful because we were driving. Like the important part to us is that you guys have a takeaway and you guys get the message and it's not about us. And I think we just tried a little bit too hard to not make it about us and to make sure that you guys felt like you got everything you needed. And when we gave it to the people that we love to look at the episodes and have a look at them, they both, like your side and my side, were like, this doesn't like represent you well.
Yeah, this was not your mission. This is not, and you guys, were you having any fun? Were you having any
That's
fun?
Exactly what I said.
So
it's if this is going to be fun, don't do it.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, we need to scrap all of that and get back to like how it feels when her and I are just chatting and brainstorming and having fun sessions. And so we thought it was perfect to talk to you all about the art of being a beginner because everyone can relate to that. And so we thought we would share a couple of examples of times that we've been a beginner. You're listening to one right now. We are beginners at podcasting and we appreciate you being here. And hopefully it will inspire you to start that thing that you've been thinking about or have that tough conversation or go speak at that event and do something that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable because being a beginner, like, would you agree? It's uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh, it's so uncomfortable. And the thing I sell real estate, and the people I tell on my team, they are at a very different level. I remember when I got into the office, I'm comparing my first day, month, year to these people who've been in the industry for 20 or 30 years and they're selling volume. They have a huge team. They have a name in the community. And I'm so envious of where they're at that I forget that all the hard work they put in. All I see is the end product.
Yeah, the tip of the iceberg, right?
That is a check for your ego. You're at the beginning. All you do is stumble. And even with this podcast, how many hours have we put into it? Like, I've watched so many YouTube videos. I'm like, what equipment to buy? And we're both like bouncing ideas off each other. Like, it's been a lot, but it's fun. And I think that if you can provide like an example or two of where you've seen the first versus the second, or the beginning versus the destination, because we all know that quote that's enjoy the journey, not don't try and push to the destination, whatever it is.
Yeah, so, well, and one of those things, because there's one topic I've been hearing a lot about at different events. And so I'm a business person. I do business consulting. I scale software companies. I work with a lot of different verticals and varieties of professionals. So I see a lot of different things in doing that. And it's a huge blessing. And one thing that keeps coming up a lot in the things that I'm actively doing now is imposter syndrome. And that's exactly what you were just talking about, right? You're comparing their chapter 12 to your chapter 1. And you actually shared a really good podcast with me while we were kind of prepping for this by Alex Hermosi about the art of being prepared, like preparation. Right. And that
was
that
eye-opening.
really landed for me because it's not, so it's a combination of when you're feeling like an imposter, it's because you're not prepared and you're new at it, right? And that's the combination of it, I think, that makes you feel like an imposter. And the more that you prepare, that starts to go away. And the more that you stack your wins, then you develop confidence, right, in that area. So an example, I guess, for me would be like being a mom. Shit, that is hard.
Oh man, going from the first child to the second child is completely different. Do you remember that one commercial that was on TV? And it was like the parents being overprotective with the first child, and then with the second child, they're like eating food off the floor and like not caring, like, oh yeah, he'll come back. Just like, go have fun. Do you remember that commercial?
Life. Like that is my life. Like a perfect example of it is like with my first son, Grayson. We're at like the park and I'm like the helicopter mom, like following him around. Don't fall off. And like, I swear people were looking at me like, is she going to let him play? And you don't want them to get hurt. And then fast forward to my daughter and we're at the park. I'm sitting on the bench chatting with my husband and they're like, hey, is she okay? I'm like, yeah, she's fine. She's fine.
That is the perfect example because you've lived through it.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully there's no major emergency because that would not be good. But in the sense of just like you can trust them, that they trust themselves to do whatever it is. And speaking of trusting yourself, mine's going to be more of a business example. When I first started going on listing appointments, I would always bring someone in because I didn't trust myself. And the key is now at like, 17-year brain, I didn't prepare. I didn't, I might have like looked at some comps, but like I didn't practice. Like the amount of hours I've put into my listing presentation now, I've read books, I've typed it out, I highlight it, I practice it in the car. I can like literally say it in my sleep and I get hired every single time. And I didn't know that you had to put the practice in. And I just assumed you just went and got it because I didn't know any better. But every time I would bring someone new, they would always say, I would always get the email, Lauren, I would work with you, but I don't like your partner, so I'm not going to work with you. And that was just feedback from the universe. Clearly, I've got this, but I didn't have the confidence to trust myself that I could do it. So these are the things that, whether it's business, whether it's family, when you're a beginner, and I think it's a little bit easier to prep for business than it is as being a mom. Like, did you do things to prep for being a mom?
I tried to prep. I read all the books. I read all the things. And you just got to do it. It's like, you don't know until you do it. Every child is different. And you got to figure out just like you figure out like what exercise works for you, what outfit works for you. You have to figure out what parenting techniques work for you and your child because everything's going to be different.
And they're going to be different between each child.
Oh,
which I think is even harder.
Polar opposites. My kids are polar opposites. Like sometimes I look at my husband with our daughter and I'm like, what do we do here? Like, this is a first. Haven't seen this one before. Like, what are we doing? But we have that confidence of like, we've done this before. So it's, instead of it being scary, it's kind of like fun and funny because we're like, well, that's new. How are we going to handle that one? Like, fun fact, my daughter's almost 2 and she is saying the F word. And like we cuss, but we're careful. And she is saying the F word and she knows that it's bad and she thinks that it's funny. And we're doing the technique of ignore it. And we'll see how that goes.
Have you already tried like the first technique of correcting?
No, you don't want to do that at her age. Cause it's like, then she's like, you're telling her no. And she's like, I'm going to do it more. So you just like, I've said to her, hey, you don't say that. Let's not say that. That's not a nice word. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Hey, moms out there, if you have any techniques, and don't come at me with the hate. We all drop an F-bomb here and there. So,
yeah. And I mean, I accidentally dropped it around them, and I was like, "Ooh!" I think I said, "Oh shit, can I say that?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I just cussed twice."
Yeah, Lauren came and stayed with us for a couple of nights about a month ago, and yes, that did happen. And she was like terrified. Yeah. I'm like, "It's okay. They hear it like in the wild." Also known as in life.
Yeah. I mean, it is part of life,
Totally.
Yeah. The beginning of saying bad words, starting at 2, less than 2.
Beginning. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
She even tied us right in together. I love it. That's funny. So what are your thoughts on enjoying the journey versus the destination. Because I think a lot of people that we love in the self-development space, in the self-development space, I think they stress that.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to say, to agree with them when you're in the thick of it and you're upset and you're mad and you're putting in the effort and the results aren't showing up. And you're like, yeah, whatever. It's easy for you because you already made it. And when you listen to these very successful people,
yeah,
they still have their struggles. And it's very, very eye-opening to hear them say that they don't know what they're doing, that they this, that they that. And it's all doubt.
Yeah, doubt creeps in. It creeps in for everybody.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, it creeps in. I mean, we've experienced it, right? The two of us, we've experienced doubt. It happens. And I think that like a big anchor for me for when that occurs is I really just like stop and I'm like, is this going to matter in 5 years? Is this going to matter in 5 hours? Right. And it's starting to get that control over your emotions, developing some emotional intelligence. We're going to have tough days. We're going to have shitty days. There's going to be things that happen that are unplanned, but we get to control how we respond to it. And that's way easier said than done. Like by no means am I like, have I perfected this in any way? But that's what I anchor to when it happens to me is, is this really going to matter? Like nobody's dying and somebody was mean to you, or, you had a tough day at work. You didn't land that presentation. You didn't get that client. You lost that gig. You weren't your best self at the presentation because you were up with your kids all night the night before. Like give yourself some grace too. And then ask yourself, is this going to matter in 5 years?
Yeah, I think becoming aware of it. Like sometimes I do think it's important to wallow if you need to.
Totally.
I think, it's like, it depends on, are you drained? It depends, sorry, if you're getting your period, like that always plays a role for me. So you have all these things. And sometimes like, I would say this year, I've had like quite a few hits in business and it's like really affected how I'm maneuvering right now. Like I don't want to keep making errors.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of in that doubtful place of, I know I'm good at what I do, but I'm not feeling super 100% stable right now doing it. So I'm trying to pivot, which is our word of the year.
Yep.
And this is a new beginning. I expanded my business to another city where I really don't know anybody. So I'm not new to real estate in Miami, but I'm new to this community, and my Lord, it is different. So just the culture shock of being in Miami has disrupted my life. It's not just like an easy lateral move from Scottsdale to San Diego, where that's pretty simple. It's to pretty much a foreign country that resides in the United States. Not shitting on Miami. It is just so different.
Yeah, careful there.
So yeah, those are the things that we're always learning how to be. We're always a student. I do love that quote.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message here is always be learning. Don't be afraid to start. It's okay to be a beginner. In fact, there's so much in that beginner journey for you to learn and grow. Really embrace it and dive in and find techniques that work for you to help support you through the process, whether it's friends, a therapist, podcasts, books. You have to have some sort of outlet as your go-to exercise that will help pull you out of those moments of doubt, those moments of questioning, like, am I good enough? Why am I even doing this? We've done this. We're like, who do we think we are to come in here and teach people how to feel good about themselves? And the reality is, like, we've done it for ourselves. So we do have valuable things to share. And that's why we said, you know what? We're going to show up and we're going to see how it goes. And you're following along on that journey with us.
Yep. By the way, not only is this podcast new and we're getting to know you and you're getting to know us, we are new friends.
Beginner, right? The art of being a beginner.
We are beginner friends.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's end with that, because I think that sometimes when you get a little bit older in life, people are like, no new friends. And I believe people come in and out of your life for a reason. Like there is not one person that's not in your life for a reason. And sometimes you just know. And I feel like when we went to the Phoenix, we've known each other for 4 or 5 years?
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years.
But we've never really been close or connected. It's been very surface level engagements, mutual friends, weddings, bachelorette parties, that, things like that, but huge groups. And so not a lot of time to get deep. And I feel like the open was the first time we like really were like getting to know each other, and it just like clicked.
It totally clicked. It totally clicked. And I know that the first time I met you was at a bachelorette party, and we walked in and you were decorating it and you were telling everybody what to do and you had everything organized. And I just stood there in awe. I was like, oh my God, this is like my person, but a female.
Oh, I love that.
Like just speaking my language. It just was like, okay, I need to get to know this girl. But I also don't know if at the time it was the right time. Like, I feel like when I look back to who I was, maybe you can say the same.
Yeah.
I've grown so much more since in 100%. These 4 years to be a different person. Like, I don't think we would have gotten this off the ground the same way 4 years ago.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot is like, I think the reason this works, because some people will be like, what? You're going into business with somebody that you don't really know that well, but like, honey, we've got agreements, we've got like we've done these things, so it's not scary to us at all. And we're both super intuitive, which we want to talk about in later episodes, like how to harness the power of your intuition. And then that's what happened here, is we were just, our gut was like, yep. It
was the best. I like want to get quiet and just relive it real quick, because it's so special how this happened. Yeah. And yeah, it just couldn't be more grateful. Like, and we really respect and appreciate each other, which contributes to it. Even though she comes up with an idea or I come up with an idea, or her strength is this, whatever, like there's no jealousy. It's not like, oh, I wanted to come up with that, you know, or like, let me kind of outsmart you. It's like, this is just my honest feedback. I didn't like this. Can we change it? And we've been super respectful about that. Yes. But I also think that's because I'm going to contribute it to contribute.
Yeah.
Contribute. No, I think it's attribute.
Attribute.
I want to give each of us credit.
Words are fun.
I want to give each of us credit. So we'll come back to which word it is. I want to give each of us credit because as individuals, we've both had a lot of trauma in our life.
Yeah.
And we've worked through it. And without that work and being self-aware, we would never be here. Like, you not able to rely on your gut to say, yes, get into business with this person that I pretty much just met if you weren't that individual. So those are the things we want to teach you about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So grateful, so fun. And I think let's end on a high note of like, take inventory of your friends and the people that you're allowing to be close to you and to be in your inner circle. Like, how do you feel around them? Do you feel energized? Do you feel drained? Do you feel like you can be your whole true self? Like, there shouldn't feel like competition. You should leave a dinner or an event that you go to with friends and be like, I love her or I love him, right? It should feel good and you should want to continue hanging out with that person. So because we love takeaways, how do you feel about giving them a takeaway of take inventory of your friends?
Oh, girl, that is, I would say on paper, so easy to execute. And in real life, it's so hard because what people get caught up in my opinion, is, well, we've been friends since kindergarten. We've been friends since college. Like, I don't care if they are not contributing positively in your life, if they don't support you when they're down and you're happy when, like, that's really not your person. You don't stay friends with someone because it's been X amount of time. Sorry, you just don't. So if they're, like Danielle said, if this is not like they give you energy, I don't want to say you go over and say, like, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. That's not what we're saying. But you just are aware. Maybe you slowly start or stop spending time with them. And then on the contrary, if you're at an event and you like somebody, like, I have literally walked up to girls and been like, I like you. Can we be friends? It's as simple as that. Or, hey, I think you're pretty. Can I be your friend? Like, and it works because you're giving a compliment, but you're also like following it up with action. And some of these girls have become my very best friends in the whole world. So it works. And I think that if you notice what you naturally gravitate towards, then that's kind of your takeaway. Like, start taking inventory.
All right, hotties. That's our first episode. Go take some inventory of your friends. Lauren, why don't you tell them where they can like, share, comment, feedback, and follow along on our journey?
Yes. So our handle is at The Hot Girl School. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, and Apple. So feel free to follow along. Bye, hotties.
See you next time.